Thank you for tuning into this informational presentation about the LinkNoCo project, formerly known as the North Front Range Premium Transit Analysis. My name is Alex Gordon, and I'm a transportation planner for the North Front Range Metropolitan Planning Organization. Throughout this presentation, I will be discussing what the LinkNoCo project is, what we plan to achieve through this planning initiative, and the various ways that people can get involved in the process. To begin, let's talk about what LinkNoCo is. LinkNoCo is the culmination of a few pieces of existing planning efforts. The key piece is the regional transit element, which is a long-range transit plan for our region. In that plan, we evaluated the corridors connecting our region's communities, what funding was potentially available, and what our priorities were. You will see a map later in this presentation highlighting these corridors. The next key component is the Front Range Passenger Rail Initiative that the state legislature and Southwest Chief and Front Range Passenger Rail Commission have been working on. Our Planning Council, which is made up of elected officials from the 13 communities and 2 counties we represent, set aside funding to study how to look at internal connections that could complement the statewide Front Range Passenger Rail corridors. Although there are proposed corridors, no decisions have been made about technology or which corridors have been prioritized. Technologies in this case mean premium transit, which is a buzzword for transit above local bus, and could include bus rapid transit like MAX in Fort Collins, express bus like Bustang or the Poudre Express, rail like the RTD light rail and commuter rail system in the Denver region, or some other technology under development. Our main priority is identifying the right technology to connect our communities. So what exactly is the LinkNoCo project? We want to prioritize community connections in our region with the right technology that will benefit the most people. Focusing on the most people means looking holistically at more than just commuting. Are we designing a system that also benefits older adults, people with disabilities, and/or historically marginalized communities? The system should be easy, safe, and equitable for everybody. With all of our regional air quality issues, we need to make sure that we are competitive with driving alone to address traffic congestion and greenhouse gas emissions. Most of all, what we propose needs to represent what we've heard from you, our stakeholders, and that means as many stakeholders as we can reach out to, through an inclusive and accessible stakeholder engagement effort. We'll discuss different ways to get involved later in this video. This project kicked off in earnest in May 2021 and is expected to go through at least summer 2022. On the screen, you will see that our digital survey is coming in fall 2021, and 2 online open houses will happen throughout 2022. Our outreach has been designed to engage as many people as possible, especially through hybrid efforts during the COVID-19 pandemic. These efforts will help us get feedback on the different segments of the project. We'll start with the existing conditions research. We'll move on to developing which corridors should move forward to analysis and prioritization. Then we'll do the analysis and prioritization, which will include funding and governance, which will ask, how do we phase and build out these corridors? Once they're built, who runs the service? And finally, a final report including the recommendations. An up-to-date schedule will be kept at the project website nfrmpo.org/transit/LinkNoCo. We've talked process, but let's talk about what we're looking into. On your screen, you'll see a bunch of different concepts. Together, these different concepts will help us build out a premium transit network. For example, off-board ticketing is what happens on MAX. You buy your ticket before you board and can board through any door, which speeds up the ability to get on the bus. Another potential idea is transit exclusivity, which are essentially areas where no vehicles besides buses are allowed. Think bus-only lanes or HOV lanes. Another important aspect is making sure that the bus connects to and integrates with our bicycle and pedestrian network. Essentially, this can be achieved by bike racks at stations, bike racks on the front or inside of the buses, identifying bus stops near regional trails, and making sure that every bus stop is accessible by sidewalks. There are a lot of other concepts on screen, but those will be highlighted throughout the project. Earlier in the presentation, I talked about our 2045 regional transit element, which recommended corridors for transit investment. On screen are the corridors that were recommended, and as you'll notice, they focus on connecting multiple communities, not on any one specific community. It's also important to note that these corridors or community connections are just the beginning. We can evaluate other corridors, but the important thing to note is the focus on community connections throughout our region. I'll also note that some corridors already have transit service, like the Flex or Pruder Express, but these routes can be potentially upgraded with some of the aspects from the previous slide. We've discussed what the project process is. Now let's talk what we want to get out of this project. When the Planning Council set aside funding in winter 2019-2020, we set out a specific scope of work. This scope included proposing a set of top-performing transit corridors based on things like community input and the Federal Transit Administration, or FTA, guidance, creating an action plan to implement the corridors we're recommending, including critical steps and phasing, identifying a governance structure that is amenable to the transit agencies and our local governments, and identifying ways to fund these initiatives. Paramount to this effort is making sure that we propose corridors that are based on input from the public. The following slides explain this engagement we plan or are already doing. Northern Colorado is becoming increasingly diverse, which is great. It also means that we need to have a set of strategies that resonate with as many people as possible. On the screen are ways we plan to engage. We'll use the project website at nfrmpo.org/transit/LinkNoCo, an email and phone number, as well as social and traditional media. We'll create informational materials in English and Spanish, including digital surveys and self-guided open houses. So keep an eye on our website for more information about how to stay engaged. In addition to the ways we'll go out to meet the public where they are, we'll have a few standing groups to help guide the project. The NFR MPO's Technical Advisory Committee is made up of planners, engineers, and transit staff who can help provide technical feedback. A new policy advisory group is made up of elected officials and other representatives to identify and discuss funding and governance options. The guidance committee is made up of stakeholders to discuss the implications and day-to-day aspects of the project. We also want to invite members of the public to be project ambassadors, who can go out into their communities to discuss the project and act as local representatives for the project. Finally, we'll have 2 online open houses and questionnaires related to evaluating an initial range of options, and then the set of recommendations that we'll take to the NFR MPO Planning Council. Thanks for hanging in for this entire presentation. On the screen are ways to contact us with questions or feedback. Please follow our website at nfrmpo.org/transit/LinkNoCo, send us an email, or leave a voice message.